Hey, Forrest here. Nothing like getting paid. And with ICCU's mobile app, I can deposit checks or accept Zelle payments so the money hits my account fast. I just wish there was an app for mowing the rest of these lawns.
It's the fall kickoff sale at Lithia Ford of Boise. It's the best time to trade in and trade up to a new Ford truck or SUV with the room to haul your payload or playload. Visit Lithia Ford of Boise, where Ford begins in Idaho.
This is Bronco Nation News Live. The best interviews, the most informed opinions, the latest breaking news, all from the top Boise State insiders. Bronco Nation News Live from BroncoNationNews.com is presented by RowPaint.com, the official paint and coatings company of Boise State Athletics. All Bronco Nation news broadcasts come from the Western Collective Studios. Head down to Western Collective's locations in Garden City or downtown Boise to try some of their delicious beers, including the Horseshoe Golden Ale, the first beer to support an NIL collective. Now, here's four-time NSMA Idaho Sports Writer of the Year, BJ Rains, with another edition of Bronco Nation News Live.
Hey, good morning. How we doing, Boise State fans? Happy Tuesday. It's you here at Bronco Nation News, BroncoNationNews.com. It's a Taco Bell Tuesday, so get on out to Taco Bell and make sure you check out all their delicious meals and options. And we got flag football practice tonight, so the Rains family will probably be hitting up Taco Bell either before or after. Sometimes it's both. Those cheesy roll-ups and all the great options they have at Taco Bell. Our kids are hooked on Taco Bell. So thank you, the Nicolason family, SON Management. And again, get out to Taco Bell and as part of our Taco Bell Tuesday here at BroncoNationNews.com. Jay Tust, sports director at KTVB, is going to join us momentarily. We're going to talk Boise State football with Jay and get some of Jay's thoughts on what went down in Eugene the other night and how the Broncos can rebound from that with the bye week this week. We are in the Western Collective Studios. Make sure you check out that Horseshoe Golden Ale. $3, by the way, whenever you come and hang out at the watch party there at Bar National inside of House of Western. We had another standing room only crowd. So all the away games, make sure you come to the away game watch parties and check out their new restaurant, Due West, American Fine Dining in there as part of that group as well. So highly recommend the House of Western and the trio of restaurants they have there as part of the Western Collective group. And our studio sponsor here is in the Western Collective Studios is our man Kerry Pruitt and Western Collective. So we appreciate them. Get your comments in now. Get your questions in now. And we'll take all your comments and thoughts on the biggest concern with the Boise State football team after the loss to Oregon. We're going to bring in our man Jay Tust, as I said, sports director over at KTVB. Jay, happy Tuesday to you, man. A little nice yesterday not having the press conference, a little nice today, not having to hurry off to interviews and practice. Chance for the team to reset, but also the media as well.
Yeah, glorious. I think we should do 2 bye weeks every single year. I honestly wonder if this is something you do try to strategize, BJ. Seriously, I think it'd be more productive for your team to play in a 0 week, get a jump on, a whole week jump on everybody in your preseason, and then have an extra week off during the middle of the season. I would try to figure out a way that, you can make this part of almost your routine game plan going into a season.
Well, I mean, it's just when you think about 12 games in a row and 12 games in the weeks they have, and you look at the NFL adding the extra game, but adding the extra, time there too. And it's an extra full week of programming for the TV networks. I'm not sure why. I know you're not adding games, but to spread them out and have more games on TV. I mean, think about that week 0 being a full week of games and not just 3 games. And think about every team playing 3 or 4 games or whatever, having a bye, playing another set of games. Like, I know you don't want all the teams playing byes the same weeks, obviously, but I totally agree. I mean, it makes too much sense if you didn't have another bye, Boise State would be playing 10 weeks in a row to end the rest of the regular season, which they've done several times before. They've played one game, taken a week off, and that's been it. They've played a couple. Sometimes they play the first 9 and they get a late bye. So, yeah, I totally agree. For multiple reasons, it just makes too much sense for these teams and how much they put into it to get an extra bye week. And for fans, for TV networks, for everybody else, spread the season out another week, and more college football is better for everybody.
Yeah, yep. And then one thing you didn't even mention there too, like it has to help with player safety. Like getting these guys off, getting them off for an extra week during the season, not only so their bodies can recover, but so they get some schoolwork done and all that stuff. It just feels like a win all the way around. I'll take it this year though. I don't think this has ever happened since I've covered the team, and I absolutely love this 2 bye week setup. So I'm going to enjoy it, especially after the first couple of games of travel. I mean, I know Eugene wasn't, that far away or whatever, but you go all the way across the country. It kind of feels like a short turnaround for us because we don't get that chartered flight home, right? So by the time we finally get home Sunday night, you get into work, you do Sunday Sports Extra. It feels like you're right back in a press conference on Monday, and then all of a sudden you're driving to Eugene, so
yeah. You guys left on Thursday. That was only there for a couple of days, and you had to drive home. I don't know what I would have rather done, drive home Sunday or not get any sleep and stay up, 40 straight hours or whatever I did with having to get back from my kids' baseball games. As I said, I filed my story from a Sherry's Diner near the airport about 3 a.m. and then just went straight to the airport. And yeah, it was tough. And yeah, no one cares about our excuses. We're low paid media people. It is what it is. I get it. But yeah, it's not always the glorious, the behind the scenes travel, the 3 flights there and back to Georgia, the no sleep, the 8-hour drive that you guys had both ways, and then having to come in and do a Sunday night show. Like there is it's not quite as glorious and as luxurious as everyone might make it out to be.
Yeah. I will say this though, man, all worth it to watch that game the other night. What a special, fun atmosphere. And again, the time that we've been covering this team now, BJ, it's well over a decade for both of us, and I thought that was one of the best atmospheres that I've experienced. Oregon did a great job with their game day atmosphere, the music. It seems like their whole game day setup is pretty choreographed, and the thing that I like about it too, BJ, is like they have their own unique things, right? Like they don't try to go out and get somebody else's routine and implement it into theirs. Like they got their own unique traditions. And I really, it never rains at Autzen Stadium, so.
Yeah. Oh, I liked my favorite part might've been the walk down to the stadium.
That was insane.
They had a guy on a motorcycle and he just kept revving it up, going slow. And the team is like choreographed in. Lanning's right in the front, kind of walking like a badass, and all the players are right behind him. And they had this whole walk, for the 200 yards or whatever it was that you have to walk kind of around the side of the stadium from their locker room. It's a weird setup there, but man, that was a badass entrance. And then they got out to the field and they start playing the smoke and the guys just revving up the Harley, and then the team comes out. That was pretty badass.
It's probably like, man, it might be a 300-yard walk. Like, I don't know if you had the chance to like walk back up to kind of the facility, but like the moment he came on, I was like, oh, they're just coming out of the locker room. And my first thought was like, this is going to be awkward to have the camera on them for a 300-yard walk. And it wasn't. It like the intent. And Dan Lanning looks like he's going to kill somebody. Like you could feel his intensity and fire. And so it wasn't awkward. It was awesome. And I know we all wish that it was 4 points in the other direction in favor of Boise State, but I thought that was a really, really cool game day atmosphere they created at Autzen.
JB says it was louder than Husky Stadium, loudest stadium I've been in. JB says, it was when you're in the press box, you can never hear all the noise and stuff. I mean, it was loud. I wasn't in the stands. I wasn't on the field, but maybe it was partially because what Boise State was doing, but I didn't think it was just so loud that I had to cover my ears or anything.
No, maybe not, but I do think the experience on the field is different than what we get up in the stand or in the press box, because that the whole design of that stadium is to kind of create it like an amphitheater, right? So the noise really does funnel right back down to the field. So fans that were in the lower stands, or even the players on the field, they even have a different experience than what we do, up in the press box where the sound eventually gets to.
Yeah. Yesterday, we had Prater on. We kind of really dove into some of these different issues, and I want to get Jay, similar thoughts from Jay on these issues and what where he thinks they go from here on some of these. Obviously, a lot of issues to discuss. You could go with the secondary still giving up too many big plays. You can go with the wide receivers really, I think, underperforming to this point through 2 games. Obviously, the quarterbacks is a big one that you can focus on. Special teams giving up 2 touchdowns. Is that a worry moving forward, or is that a one-time thing? The offensive line, is that now a concern with likely 2 starters out for an extended period of time here? I still saw NBC Sports, Nicole Auerbach had the Broncos as the group of 5 favorites still. A lot of people still feel good about this team moving forward despite the loss, and for good reason, Jay. But if you're trying to analyze in here in terms of what could stub their toe or cause them problems here moving forward, there are still, and again, you can be a little nitpicky when you think you're going to be Boise State's going to be a favorite in every game the rest of the season. But whether it's Washington State coming in a couple weeks or some of these teams, like there's at UNLV coming up in a month. There's still some non-cakewalks on the schedule here, and some of these issues have to be fixed or corrected or things figured out in terms of depth chart stuff. We'll dive into some of these, but I guess generally just the Oregon game, your takeaways from what we saw over there the other night.
Yeah, it begins and ends with the special teams, and we talked about this being a problem for the last few years, and it was a massive emphasis coming into this year, and to lose in the way that Boise State lost at Oregon, where their defense technically only gives up 23 points, and their special teams unit gives up 2 touchdowns. That's for me, that's the beginning and end of it. Because even if other stuff wasn't pretty at times, that was atrocious. And to the point where, BJ, this doesn't happen. To give up a special teams and a kickoff return touchdown in a single game, it doesn't happen. It happened once all of last season, and I believe the punt return was actually a blocked punt, right? So I kind of went through, all the teams last year that gave up kickoffs and punt returns and stuff like that, and there was only one that gave up a punt and a kickoff return in the same game, and again, it was a blocked punt, not a punt return. So it's to have it the way that Boise State did it is, it's unfortunate, and it's unacceptable. It really is. That's unacceptable. That has to change. And I know that the guys over in that facility would tell you that, but that literally can never happen again. Especially if this team wants to go to a New Year's Six bowl game, it can never happen again. And you mentioned UNLV. Jacob DeJesus is the real deal when it comes to returning. And I actually talked with Barry Odom. It was media days were over, and I don't feel like I actually gave DeJesus the credit that he deserves for what he did in the return game last year. He posted a very unique stat line. He was very successful as a punt returner and kickoff returner last year. And so I asked Barry about it. He goes, "You would be surprised how much we practice special teams. We always practice special teams, and a lot of his starters play on special teams and things like that." And we heard that, out of Boise State going into this year. But I'll tell you, there was a true freshman specifically on that kickoff return unit, and on the kickoff return unit that allowed the touchdown. And to a certain degree, I will say this, man, a little bit of a tip of a cap to the Oregon return man. He wanted to make a play. He brought that ball out. It could have gone into the end zone a yard or 2 deep. He brings it out, and he wanted to make a play, and he did make a play. But Boise State's got to be better. That was just unacceptable.
Yeah, and I guess the bigger question is, you mentioned how much they pay Stacey Collins a lot of money, the most ever for a non-coordinator, I believe. They bring him over here, and they have these logos, and they have all this gear, and they make special teams such a huge impact, and then it literally loses them the biggest game of the season. Is this just a fluke thing because he's good, or is it a concern for you, special teams at all moving forward here?
I know Stacey's good at his job, so I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt now. But we are 2 games in, and in my opinion, in the return game, Boise State's 0 for 2, and it's getting to the point, BJ, where all of a sudden now, this is where teams are going to try to capitalize on Boise State. So they have to get this corrected. They
Which
have
used to never be the case. They used to be a
No.
top 10 special teams type team in all those really good years.
Yeah. So now all of a sudden you like you saw Oregon do late in that game, where a ball could bounce through the end zone or whatever, that you could easily just fair catch it or do whatever. Instead, now teams are going to take it out because they're going to want to test Boise State. And honestly, I think that's what you saw Oregon do late in that game. After Georgia Southern had a big kickoff return against Boise State. I think you're going to see teams want to test them now. So that means they're going to have to be even better than they initially had to be going into the season, because they're now really going to have to get out and cover. And I'll be interested. I mean, I don't know whether it's personnel. I don't know. I don't know how they mix that up or what they do moving forward, but something has to be done, because allowing two special teams touchdowns, really, BJ, in a season, let alone two consecutive quarters or whatever, like that cannot happen.
No, and I do have 5 potential issues that I want to get to here, so I don't want to spend all the time on special
That's fine.
teams. But
Yeah.
But you brought up and you asked Spencer Danielson about the kickoffs. I haven't gone back and watched the game yet. I've had a lot going on, but Mike Prater said that in the book, it said that Jonah Dalmas was the one that actually did the kickoff for the last kickoff it was the only one of the game. It listed Dalmas. I don't believe it was Dalmas, but he said on the show yesterday that Dalmas was listed in the game book as doing that kickoff that led to that was for the touchdown. I don't know for sure if they switched it back. I apologize. Bad show hosting. I didn't have a chance to go watch the footage of it.
Stall for a second. I'm going to go get it.
You have the footage? Okay, that would be perfect.
Just stall for a sec.
Because, all right, Jay's going to go back and look at that. I'm going to thank 3 sponsors while Jay's looking that up. The special teams, we'll get to that in a second. Our studio sponsor, Western Collective, the Horseshoe Golden Ale. Check them out. Make sure you pick up the Horseshoe Golden Ale for your next tailgate party game day experience. And again, check out one of the 3 restaurants as part of Western Collective's downtown group. They also have the Garden City location as well. And they got great food, great drinks, great prices. And make sure the next road game, that Hawaii game, you're coming to the watch party there at the National Bar inside House of Western. Our title sponsor is roepaint.com, ROE-paint.com. Check out our title sponsor, the official paint and coatings company of Boise State, those concrete coatings. They got the various options in terms of interior, exterior residential painting. I know, Jay, Andy was front and center in your live shop the other night from Eugene. Great dude, and he was having a lot of fun and enjoyed meeting his dad that night as well. That was cool. So make sure you support somebody who truly does really support the Broncos, Andy Rowe and roepaint.com. And let's thank Idaho Central Credit Union as well. Coming up Thursday night, we got the Tyson Degenhart Show. Thursday night, we got a cool guest we're working on, or cool 2 guests, I should say. Not quite ready to announce them, but Idaho Central Credit Union, ICCU.com. There's a branch pretty much on every corner, but the easiest is that mobile e-branch online banking. Make sure you check out Idaho Central Credit Union, ICCU.com. And again, we thank Idaho Central Credit Union, sponsors of the Tyson Degenhart Show. All right, Jay, what did we find out?
Yeah, that's what I thought, because I remember the guy that tried to run the kickoff returner down. It was Jonah Dalmas did not kick off that.
Didn't think so.
No.
Yep.
And also there's another stack correction I'm trying to get Zion Washington an extra tackle, which was actually a half a tackle for loss too. So it was miscredited to somebody else. So I'm trying to get that for him.
There you go. But yeah, for whatever reason, the game book for that one kick return just went back to or kickoff went back to Jonah Dalmas in the game book for that was him out there. What do you make? You asked Spencer Danielson after the game about this. I know you want to try to get other guys out there when you can, get them a little experience for next year. But I mean, we see so much. Nothing against anybody else, but I mean, Jonah Dalmas is your All-American candidate at kicker, and we know about his leg and how far his strength is. I find it hard to believe that there's somebody else out there that is a better option on kickoffs than Jonah Dalmas. But you asked about it on Monday. Every kickoff had gone, I think, into the end zone or through the end zone for touchbacks. For some reason, that one didn't, and it led to the touchdown. Just your take on the kickoffs and that situation.
After going back and rewatching it, BJ, I don't know if I'm going to blame the kickoff. I wanted to, because I said that afterwards, and I tweeted that out. I was, but after just gathering a little bit more information, I don't think you can. I don't necessarily think that one was on the kicker. And maybe we'll have a follow up. We didn't have a press conference Monday, unfortunately, and also fortunately, because it was nice not to.
You're 9 days later asking about old news at that point.
Yeah, but I mean that's something that it was big enough that we can readdress. And I said that we should have asked Spencer on Monday that Monday leading up to Oregon, and that's on me that we should have asked why Jonah Dalmas all of a sudden wasn't doing kickoffs, because he did start against Georgia Southern and then he wasn't doing it.
Yep.
But that's the plan, man. It's not like anything's wrong with Jonah or he did anything wrong. It's just like this is what they feel like is the best for the team. Sometimes I worry a little bit about the psyche of that, but I know that Spencer Danielson's like really in tune with his team and their requirements and all that stuff. I worry a little bit what happens when it gets cold? I know it might not seem like much, but it is a chance for Jonah to get out there and keep his leg warm on a kickoff or something like that. But we'll try to get those answers, next time we meet with the coaches and just get a little bit more on that on that decision and why. So, but I gotta say,
go ahead, sorry.
But I gotta say, I mean, this is more. It's probably a misdirected blame to a little bit of a degree, where it feels like, I mean, if you kick it out of the end zone, yes, you remove any of that from happening. But it's also, who's to say like they weren't trying? I think that there was a little bit of a headwind there, and the Oregon returner, you clearly wanted to bring that ball out of the end zone, and so he was kind of straddling the line. I think if he lets it go, the ball lands probably a yard or two deep in the end zone. But he brought it out because he wanted to make a play, and he saved the night for his team.
And as you mentioned, them being 0 for 2 in special teams, I mean, they gave up a huge return in the first game that led to a touchdown at Georgia Southern. Latrell Caples did have one nice return yesterday where he was kind of falling over. He maybe could have had it bigger, but for the most part, we haven't seen any big plays on Boise State's side in the return game either through 2 games. And so, yeah, they put a lot of emphasis on it to this point, and to this point, it really hasn't.
Cooper Jones did have that nice return too on the punt, when Oregon was backed up. But unequivocally, though, they're getting beat right now on special teams. Like it's not even close.
Hey, Ridley's Family Markets, shopridleys.com. Check them out, shopridleys.com. You're looking for 13 locations in Idaho, other surrounding states. You're looking for that hometown grocer. You're looking for great prices. Make sure you check out our friends at Ridley's Family Markets. Matt Bauscher Real Estate, #1 ranked realtor in the Treasure Valley is Matt Bauscher. Check him out, bauscherrealestate.com. And Matt helped us buy and sell our home, did a tremendous job. Kelly, Cade, Sarah, the whole crew. So check them out at bauscherrealestate.com. And Snake River Pool and Spa, thespateam.com, locations in Twin Falls, Boise, Meridian, Nampa. They've been around since 1978. They're part of the Boise State home team. Again, if you're looking for that spa for the backyard, they can help you out. But if you're also looking for a pool table or something for the game room, they got you there as well. Check them out, Snake River Pool and Spa, patio and game at thespateam.com. All right, Jay, several other issues on this team to get into. Some are maybe not big-time concerns. Some are. Yesterday, I was accused of stirring the pot by a couple of folks on here by bringing up the quarterback situation. I think that if you're saying we're not stirring, if you're calling us, accusing us of stirring the pot, you're just the most loyal Maddox Madsen fan of all time, and say that there's no reason he should ever come out of the game. I don't see how any objective, rational, just regular Boise State fan could argue that you can't at least bring up the quarterback situation moving forward here. Maddox Madsen, 17 of 40, 148 yards. I do not believe he should be benched. I do not believe that he is at that point yet, but you are playing a Portland State team that you're going to probably get up big on. That gives you the opportunity to get some playing time for Malachi Nelson, which I then think next week, or the week after the Portland State game, if Malachi Nelson comes in and does something, would be much more of a, quarterback, I don't want to say circus, but I mean, if both guys play in the Portland State game and both guys have success, all of a sudden there's going to be more of a cry for just turning it over to Nelson moving forward. Obviously, I have a quote from Spencer Danielson. I want to go ahead and play this, Jay. You asked him a question about the quarterbacks. It's a 52-second clip. I'll play this, then you can just come out of it and respond with your thoughts on where you're at with the quarterbacks. Because obviously, he did say the passing game needs to improve, but it's on more than just the quarterback.
17 of 40, you really kind of struggled to find much rhythm in the second half. How much more do you need out of him when he the way that he played tonight?
Yeah, we got to be better in the pass game. And once again, everyone's going to look at the quarterback, but it's not just on him. I mean, there's some alignments and routes that we need to find a way to go one-on-one. So we're going to look at it because we got to be better. I mean, I got to give our hats off to our O-line. I mean, you lose Roger Carrion early in the game. We already, we're without Mason Randolph, so 2 of our better players in the O-line out, and find a way for guys to step up. I mean, Zach Holmes, coming out there and swinging against one of the best fronts we'll see all year. And I mean, Ashton, continues to put on display. He's the best player in the country, and I make no bones about it when I say that. Everything he gets, he earned and he deserves. But I got to give hats off to our tight ends, to our offensive line, because they came together. We got to grow in our pass game, and we'll look at it. I know Coach Cutter, called a great game. We got to execute when numbers are called.
Yeah, I agree with all of that, and I agree that quarterback play has to be better than what it was the other night, BJ. And it started out okay, don't get me wrong. Maddox Matson was 12 of 19 for 115 yards to start that game. But from that moment on, he was 5 of 21 for 33 yards. Like that. Hey, Oregon's got a legit defense. They got a great secondary. For Boise State to put up 34 points, there are metrics out there that the Boise State offense not massively, but really overperformed. They massively overperformed in the season opener. They really overperformed against Oregon. So there are some encouraging, numbers out there when it comes to the performance overall of the offense. But that being said, like you can't go 17 of 40. And we can make this a subjective argument, or we can just take what we know as really kind of a matter of fact moving forward on what's going to go into this decision. And I think it's pretty simple, BJ. Maddox Matson won the job because of his high completion percentage, his ability to generate explosive plays. And one thing that wasn't necessarily addressed at the time, but I continue to echo, is a big reason why I would go with Maddox Matson is that he keeps the offense or he prevents the offense from getting behind the chains for the most part, right? And if you can do that, this running game is going to always be a part of the equation, which means it's always lethal, which is what you want out of your offense right now. Like, they're so good on the ground. They've been great on the offensive line. Those are some really important parts to why Maddox Matson won the job. So the moment that those start to slip, then you do have to have that discussion. But also what I appreciate about Spencer Danielson is at that press conference following a really heartbreaking loss, BJ, he didn't get snippy with us. He answered every single question with honestly, like, some transparency and honesty. And I appreciated that. And I think his players appreciated that. And I think that you can't.
You said it was a good question when I asked how much of a backbreaker was it when you give up I'm like, it's an obvious question. I'm not sure it's a good question, but I kind of chuckled when he said that. He's like, good question, a great question.
But I'll just take that. And I just appreciate the clarity. And like, I'm old enough to remember last year, BJ, when we would cover the whole week heading into a game, and we're told one thing, and then the complete opposite thing would happen on game night. And then we would ask about it after the game, and it was like we were asking the dumbest questions ever. And so I'm old enough to appreciate that this approach is better, or where we're honest. But I think his players appreciate it too. And look around the field, man. Just because you've been there forever doesn't mean you're going to start. Markel Reed doesn't start at cornerback. Rodney Robinson, by the way, great game by Rodney the other night. But Ty Benefield technically has his old starting job, right? Now Rodney played a ton, and Rodney didn't get enough credit for the way he played the other night. He deserves some praise for sure. But I think in last years past, like, even Dirk Cutter alluded to it, a couple following the first game with Matt Lauder, like, that's probably one they'd like to have back last year, because Matt Lauder's a really good ball player, but I think he said sometimes seniority meant more or something like that. And so we honestly, at wide receiver, we saw that with Billy. And so Spencer, he doesn't really get caught up in that. Like, he's honest with his players and all that. So I guess what I'm saying is, like, there's going to be honest conversations, I assume, moving forward about it, especially going into a bye week, because now, BJ, it's been, by the time Boise State takes the field for the Portland State game, it will have been over a month since they made that initial decision. And it was close then, right? So has
that's
anything,
what we were told.
has
I don't know
anything,
how close it actually was, but that's kind of part of mine.
I get it. We were told it was close then. And if that's the case, has anything changed? Has somebody that didn't win the job continued to improve and maybe put himself in a position to really compete for that job? Do they feel like Oregon was a little bit of an anomaly? Like, I don't know. It's a really tough conversation to have in my opinion, but I think at the end of the day, the passing game as a whole it has to be better. It has to be better than what it was.
Yeah, and the receivers are part of that. We'll get to that in a second because a lot of people are saying that they apparently, they had a lot of drops and all. I mean, they didn't get much separation. I mean, the receivers, I said yesterday, Jay, based on expectations, the receivers probably are the most underachieving unit on the team so far. I mean, they really haven't done a whole lot through 2 games. And you can say that's on the quarterback if you want. You can say that's, on whoever. But I mean, I do think we thought Prince Strawn and Austin Bolton in particular were going to be much bigger parts of the offense than they have to this point. Now, Caples and Cam Camper have done good things, but even Chris Marshall I thought would be a little more of a piece. I mean, just overall, I don't think the receivers have been quite as lethal or as deep and as good as we thought. But with the quarterbacks, I mean, they picked Maddox Madsen for a reason. They thought at the time he was the best player to lead them into the season. 2 games in, like, stuff changes. Like Bronco 130 says, and he was the one calling me stirring the pot. If Dirk Cutter doesn't think he's ready to play or get snaps in the Portland State game, then let it go. Well, I think we will. I mean, I think that's a fair point. If they go into the Portland State game and we see Maddox Madsen play 95% of the snaps, then yeah, that's who the coaches thinks the best guy. That's who the best guy is going to be. But Mike Prater said yesterday he would have some sort of plan, Jay, where they just tell the quarterbacks before the game, first half is Maddox, second half is Malachi. We want to see what Malachi can do. Like, not just so if you tell him ahead of time, maybe that doesn't mess with the psyche of a Maddox Madsen. Like, hey, we just need to get this guy some reps to see what he can do. I don't know if I quite go that far, but like I said, if you do get up 42-7 at halftime, like, there's probably a decent chance that at some point in this game that you do. I mean, the only way you don't is if you are 100% backing Maddox for pretty much the season, and you don't want to open any kind of controversy, any kind of thing, and you want to slam the door and be kind of hard-headed and say, no, we're the coaches, we made the right call, this is our guy, we're sticking to our guns, then you don't do it. But if you're up big in a typical game, you put the backup quarterback in, and especially in this game with a QB battle and you got a huge lead, like, do you give him a chance to actually make some throws and see what he can do? And next Monday, Tuesday, like even on our post-game shows on Sunday Sports Extra, like everything right after that game, if Malachi Nelson does anything, completes one pass or does anything to show that he, can have success out there, right away there's going to be this QB controversy, QB battle. Should Malachi Nelson be the guy? So how they handle the QBs in the Portland State game is going to be very interesting to me because, again, I'm taking the coaches at their word. They believe Maddox Madsen's the best guy. I'm going to trust him at this point. But 17 of 40 for 148 yards, like, I think it's fair to say, is he still the best guy? I think that's not stirring the pot. That's a fair question to ask. After that, is there any thought to maybe give a chance to the guy that, as you said, was close to winning the job at this point? The coaches may say, nope, it's still a pretty large gap. Oregon was an anomaly. They're a very good defense. We're not ready to even think about any kind of switches. And that may be very well what happens. But I do think the Portland State game and how they decide to handle the quarterbacks is going to be very interesting. I do think there's other things involved, as they said, the receivers, whatever else. But 17 of 40 ain't going to get it done.
It didn't get it done. And, I think there's other reasons why, like the fact, Maddox, I know there was a couple throws that were close, but Maddox didn't turn the ball over. And that's when you go on the road, man, that is a really, really big deal. And there are certainly parts of his game that I don't think that he does get credit for. And I mean, he checks stuff at the line of scrimmage and stuff, and that's something nobody ever talks about, right? I mean, he does put the team and the offense in a good position to succeed at times. And sometimes those checks might just be like automatic because they studied them during the week, but still, like, he has the wherewithal to always hit on that stuff. And I don't know. I know that there's more to this than looking at 17 of 40 for 148 yards. But at the end of the day, as Spencer Danielson says, you are what you put on film, and 17 of 40 is not, it's just not good enough. They've got to learn and grow, and all, it's the nature of playing that position, man. You're going to get way too much credit when it's going good and not enough credit when it's going bad, and too much credit when it's going bad, excuse me. So, there was a play early in that game. I mean, I think Cam Camper's been great so far, but there was a play early in the first quarter. We had a chance to go up and high point a ball. I think it was on the opening drive of the game, and just couldn't quite pull it down. That's being picky, but I guarantee you go back.
People are saying there were a ton of drops. Do you know how many drops there were in the game? I don't remember a ton of drops. There were some
I
pass
don't.
breakups, some nice
Yeah.
plays, but they're asking about catchable ball stats, Jay, and drops. And a couple of the Maddox Madsen defenders are putting all the
Man, I'll try to go back and look at that a little bit more. Like, no, they weren't perfect, and I just brought up a play that definitely, Maddox put a ball in a good spot that probably could have been caught. But I just think, you look at that. I mean,
someone
again,
said dropped interceptions too.
there were a couple of those. There was one specifically that was really, really scary right at the line of scrimmage that, I mean, I looked at you and were like, whoa, and you were like, that's like really close to a backwards pass too. I mean, it was right down the line of scrimmage.
Yep.
But real quick too, like we never really got, like, everybody keeps talking about the fumble on the kickoff return by Oregon where the guy released the ball prior to the goal line.
Yes.
There was an Oregon player that recovered that.
Yep, and the actual official stats in the game book call it a 99-yard return with a fumble at the one.
Yeah,
and picked up.
So that continues. I know it continues to come up, and I mean, even we questioned it initially, but I've kind of put that one to bed because it really doesn't matter. Like, if a Boise State player falls on that, or if it bounces out of bounds, it's a very different scenario. That's why, I mean, even if you're a Boise State player and you feel like that play's over, that's why you got to stay in the play in case some returner does something stupid like that. Get on the ball in the end zone.
And I said yesterday, Jay, like, when I saw after the game he was 17 of 40, that surprised me. In the moment, and maybe I was just not paying attention or whatever, but in the moment, I wasn't saying like, oh man, the quarterback play is just absolutely killing them here. I mean, they were moving the ball at times. They were doing things. Like I said, I am on the Maddox Madsen train at this point still. I still think the coaches say he's the best chance. He's the best guy. I don't think he's the reason that they lost the game. If he makes a couple throws, could the outcome have been different? Obviously, you convert a third down here or there. You make a slightly different throw here. Like I agree. He could have made some throws, but I also don't think that I in my mind, watching it at the time, maybe today when I hope to go back and rewatch the game, I'm going to think differently. But I just didn't in the moment think like, man, Maddox Madsen just lost them this game. I didn't think that. I didn't see that. Again, there's a couple plays here and there, but it was maybe I don't want to say the prettiest 17 of 40 you've ever seen, but I mean, it just didn't seem like when you think 17 of 40, you just think for 148 yards, just, a god-awful performance. And I just didn't in the moment think that. I'm not saying he played good by any means, but I also don't remember a ton of drops. I don't remember a ton of wide open receivers that he just like completely missed.
No.
I mean, there was
I just wonder, like, BJ, you look at, so I'm going to pull up a stat here as I block my screen, but like, this is one thing that I kind of wonder about how, if teams are going to approach, like, so Maddox is smaller, right? And if you blitz on defense, and you can kind of create, I mean, you can't create empty holes and throwing windows, right? So when Oregon blitzed him the other night, he was 10 of 16, which is a pretty good completion percentage. When they didn't bring numbers, he was 7 of 24. And I would love to know a little bit more about why, he was able to be more efficient against the blitz versus when they just sat back. He had a tough time. I mean, 7 to 24 that's a tough one. Another one for you.
Maybe when he's moving out of the pocket a little bit and he's not as blocked by the lineman.
I mean, that's true too. When he was, under pressure, he was 2 of 12 for 17 yards. So those, I mean, I don't know how to make all those, add up, but they've got to take a step forward in the passing game. So special teams for me is still the biggest concern. Yep. I still think that Maddox Madsen brings a lot to the table at the quarterback position. But special teams is by far the biggest concern for me.
I want to move on. We're time's starting to wind down here.
Yeah.
But do you think we see Malachi Nelson in the Portland State game?
I think you see him, but I think I do think it's because you're up 56 to 7 in the fourth quarter, which means I don't know how much you actually see of him. Like, if you're up 56 to 7 in the fourth quarter, do you actually get to throw a pass? Maybe not.
Yeah. Hey, Lithia Ford of Boise, lithiafordboise.com. Their fall kickoff sales going. We'll be over at Bora High School. Hopefully, I got to work that out with the different parties, including Mr. Tust here. Friday morning, Austin Bolt, I believe, is going to be over there. They got an event going on at Bora High School, trying to raise some money for Bora High School. You can test drive a Lithia Ford of Boise vehicle. They're going to have 30 vehicles on location at the school, 11 to 6 on Friday. And for every person that comes out and just No strings attached. Come out, test drive a vehicle, and $20 goes to Bora High School. So come raise some money for a local high school. See I believe some players are going to be there, and it's going to be a fun out there in the parking lot at Bora High School. Again, Friday, 11 to 6. And that's being put on by Lithia Ford Boise. Taco Bell, TacoBellWorks.com. You're looking for a good meal for the family? Head on out to Taco Bell. They got all the various Crunch Wrap Supremes and all the great stuff they have there. Love Taco Bell. Family loves Taco Bell. SON Management, the Nicolason family, doing a ton for Bronco Nation News. We appreciate them. And they are hiring. All their various Treasure Valley locations are hiring. So check out TacoBellWorks.com for more information and to apply for a job. Speaking of a job, transportation compliance service. If you're getting into the trucking industry, thinking about it, I would highly recommend reaching out to the folks at transcompservice.com. They can help you out every step of the way. Transportation compliance service, trucking industry, permits, DOT, overweight, everything you need to get out there towing that first load in no time. Check them out, transcompservice.com. The Blue and Orange Store, theblueandorangestore.com. Travis Hawks and Company, been around since 2006 from the beginning. And they got the best selection in town on Boise State gear. So you're getting ready for that home opener. Do we know the color scheme yet, Jay, for the home opener? I forget.
I don't know off the top of my head, bud.
All right, the color scheme for the Blue and Orange Store is online. You can find it. And if you need that shirt or gear, make sure you go to the Blue and Orange Store, the Boise Town Square Mall. They're on the second floor, or you can go obviously online, theblueandorangestore.com. And great selection, best prices. They got that clearance rack in the front. You can always get some daily sweet deals there. And highly recommend going and checking out the Blue and Orange Store, theblueandorangestore.com. And Jay, hope you picked up your 91-cent coffee or fountain drink yesterday at Jackson's. Ahmed Hassanin got his first sack of the season, and that meant 91 cents for a coffee or fountain drink of any size at Jackson's yesterday with Let's Go Rewards. So every Monday when Ahmed Hassanin gets a sack the previous weekend, you get a 91-cent coffee or fountain drink. And Jay, maybe this will be the week we finally get a chance at the Breezy Bundle. Hot dog and soda is $1 on Tuesdays when Breezy Dubar finds the end zone. So we'll see if he can get back out there and play this week. And again, $1 hot dog and soda for Breezy Dubar when he scores. And I already had a Lean Feast breakfast this morning. Check them out, leanfeastmeridian.com, leanfeastmeridian.com. 10,000 combinations, healthy eating, fully customizable, 2 minutes in the microwave. And again, you can keep them in the refrigerator up to 5 days. And now they deliver anywhere in the Treasure Valley. So no excuse not to eat healthy. Check them out, leanfeastmeridian.com. They're providing weekly meals for the football team, the basketball team. They got some NIL deals. So fuel yourself the same way the football team fuels them at leanfeastmeridian.com. All right, Jay, what is the concern? That the defense made some massive improvements, I thought, to theoretically only give up 23 points if you take away the 2 special teams touchdowns, but still just too many big plays. The 67-yarder, there was a 50-something yarder in there, a 34-yard touchdown, I believe. I mean, I know you're not going to give up any, but to still give up, 2 plus 50-yard passing plays in a game. There's a lot of comments about Jeremiah Irby underperforming in the chat here. Overall, just where are you with the defense, and I guess in the secondary with the big plays?
Yeah, that's something that has to improve, but I mean, in the moment, my reaction was a little bit different. On the other side of it now, like, if they don't give up 2 special teams touchdowns, it was still enough to win. And to think that you're not going to allow anything to Dylan Gabriel and all those 5-star wide receivers, it's a little ridiculous. So, I mean, all things considered, they still had a chance to win, and they probably woulda, shoulda, coulda if they don't give up 2 special teams touchdowns. I mean, it's as simple as that. And Amarion McCoy is playing some pretty good football right now. Like, I think that, when big plays are allowed, like, everybody is just the sacrificial lamb, right? Amarion McCoy is playing some pretty good football. On the other side, Jeremiah Irby's giving up some plays, man. And honestly, none, I don't know if any of them hurt more than the pass interference at the end, because that was the one. And man, I ask cornerbacks this all the time. Why the hell did you sign up to play cornerback? It is the toughest position in all of sports. Like, it is. Like, you have to go chase these, the most athletic dudes around the field, and you don't know what they're doing for 3.5 hours. Like, and you give up one bad play and you're awful at your job. Like, and meanwhile, you could do good on the other, 73, and nobody says boo, So it is a tough job, but I guess the one thing that I'll tell you about Jeremiah Irby that I know is, like, nobody created more turnovers during fall camp, during collectively spring ball fall camp than Jeremiah Irby. Like that guy was always seemed to always be around the football. There'd be an interception. You look up and you'd be like, "Oh, is that so?" Nope, that's Jeremiah. Like he was. So how does that? How do they take that to game day? How do they? That's the question that you have to ask. And so I do still think that he is an upgrade over, I don't know if I want to say necessarily last year because Jalen Clark did pretty good at times last year, but I still think he's the best option at least at the moment. But they'll that's a tough spot to play, man. And in practice, we saw him produce quite a bit. So it's just been a couple of tough results on game day. Like I said, play well for 65 plays, you play bad for 4 plays, and all of a sudden you're awful at your job.
I thought Zach Holmes did pretty good. I think Tyler Knath continues. I always mispronounce his name, and I apologize.
Kinath or
yeah, because his dad Rodney is awesome. I met him in the hotel at the airport or at the hotel there on the last road trip. Awesome guy. Shout out Rodney. He actually entered the Circa Millions NFL contest and went 5-0 this week, by the way. So I want 10%, Rodney, if you win your contest. But he's a great guy, and appreciate him for supporting the sponsors and signing up. But his son came in, Tyler, and did a really nice job, I thought, in both games. Zach Holmes kind of came out of nowhere at center and did a nice job. But what is your long term? What is your level of concern here? Mason Randolph, by the way, has the J Tust injury, I heard, with the bicep there. So that can't be easy to play football with. So he's probably out for the season. If not, I heard 3 months. I mean, it's going to be tough. We saw your recovery. You can tell us about that. But also haven't heard anything specific on Roger. Maybe you have, but saw him getting carted off, and then saw obviously after the game he was had crutches and a boot on his leg. I can't imagine he's going to be back in the near future either. So 2 starting linemen out of your 5 gone. The O-line has been pretty good through 2 games. Any concern that they can hold it up here moving forward?
In terms of my injury, in the timeline that I was given to get back, you're 3 to 4 months before you can do any type of remotely heavy lifting. And so that's why I just I'm gonna wait until for the official word. I think we're both on the same wavelength when it comes to what's going on there. I'll just be patient and wait for the official word on Monday, hopefully. But I think we're right there. Roger, it didn't look good. He at least was on the field and on crutches, kind of walking around, or not walking around, but at least kind of hobbling around after. But I'll just pay the credit to where it's due. And yeah, Zach and Tyler did really good filling in. There was one bad snap by Zach. I wonder if the plan changes at all moving forward. Like, I know they really like Steele a lot too. Does the bye week allow you to kind of approach that differently? I don't know. Like those are things that we'll have to figure out and wait and see. But those guys, given the circumstances against a defensive line that, well, is highly paid and has a lot of stars attached to it, those guys did about as well as you possibly could have. And Tyler particularly, man, like he has been a massive bright spot for this team. And I kind of, going into the season, I said, like, who's the 6th guy? Like they had the 6th guy last year was Roger Carrion, and like we know how good he is. Well, the 6th guy this year, it seems like it's going to be Tyler, and he's played both those guard positions in the first 2 games, and not much of any of a drop off with him in the ball game, man.
No. And again, Oregon's D-line is going to be one of the bigger, better D-lines they probably face all year, and they held up okay. But again, you can only go down the depth chart so far, Jay, before you start seeing some drop-off.
I mean, that's just the truth. You're right. That's the truth of it.
So we'll see what happens moving forward. Brad Bedell tomorrow. We'll have Brad Bedell on 9 a.m. tomorrow. We'll get his thoughts from an O-line coach's perspective on losing 2 starters and what's that like. And don't forget tonight, Riley and Rid, 8 o'clock. They'll be live at the James Kitchen and Bar, downtown Boise. I had the offer last week, Jay. I had about 5 people take me up on it. I'll do it again tonight. You show up, you watch the show, you go on the mic and ask a question in person, and your beverage is on me. So come on down. We'll lay down the BNN credit card, see how high of a tab we can raise it up. You get on air, you ask a question, and your beverage is on me. If you ask multiple questions, we'll see what kind of mood I'm in. Maybe that means multiple beverages. We'll see how it goes. But tonight, 8 o'clock, Riley and Rid, presented by Jackson's. Looking forward to hearing from Kent Riddle and Riley Smith. They were both over in Eugene as fans. We'll get their perspective on what it was like being over there as a fan, and then they're going to have some special guests as well. They're still trying to confirm. So 8 o'clock tonight, live on YouTube, the Bronco Nation News channel, but hope to see in person Riley and Rid breaking down game 1 against Oregon, or game 2 against Oregon, and getting ready for the bye week here. Jay, appreciate your time as always, man. Thanks so much for joining us. And enjoy a couple down days here. I know there's still a lot of other sports and things going on, but appreciate your time. And we'll have plenty to talk about Friday and next Tuesday as we get set for the Portland State game next Friday or next Saturday.
Yeah, sounds good, man. Can't wait. Finally one on the blue. We don't leave this place for like a month, and I am so happy about that.
And then they kind of get us back because the first road trip in a month is all the way to Hawaii. It kind of evens it out a little bit. But, 4 weekends in a row at home is going to be super nice. Looking forward to that. Make sure you're checking out KTVB. Do we have what day is Jay's Sports Bar coming out this week? Wednesday, Jay's Sports Bar. Make sure you check that out on KTVB social media channels. Jay will tweet that out as well. Appreciate you guys. Go subscribe if you can. Make sure you like the video before you get out of here and help us out. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. And Brad Bedell, 9 a.m. tomorrow. Tonight, 8 o'clock, Riley and Rid. Bronco Nation News Live, BroncoNationNews.com.